Well, good afternoon. I'm TR. Welcome to Masculinity, Blessing or Curse. It's a podcast that I do because I enjoy doing it. I enjoy the idea of delving into this concept of manhood, masculinity, and so forth, because we've not, I don't think, adequately done it. And so I want to do it, and I appreciate your being with me to do it. Today, I have a very special guest, someone that I kind of know a little bit about. This is Javonte Onyebuele. For those of you that did not know, so my son-in-law, my daughter is Talitha. Some of you may know her. This is her husband. But he, in his own right, is a prolific rapper, speaker, poet, all of those great things, as you'll see in what we'll share today. Today, I wanted to, because you've heard me say this, I like the whole idea, recognizing that I'm a part of the Moses generation. I love the idea that Moses spent the time in preparing a Joshua because it was revealed to him that he would not get the privilege of going into the promised land. But he had to prepare someone so that when they reached the promised land or going into the promised land, there was a Joshua. It's important to me that we have the exchange, that Moses speaks to Joshua to impart to him the wisdom, the knowledge, the things that he might learn from the experiences, good and bad, of Moses. But you know what? There is something else. In the age that we live in, there is much to be gleaned from Joshua to Moses. We live in a technological age where a lot of things have changed. And many of us, if we are in this Joshua generation, if we do not adjust, then we would be guilty of the same thing that, let's say, Blockbuster was guilty of when listening to Netflix. I mean, if we're baby boomers, we all know who Blockbuster was. You get that? Was. Netflix came and offered themselves for sale to Blockbuster. And man, please, we're Blockbuster. Go away. There's one Blockbuster in the world today, and that's more sentimental than anything else. So we have to be able to hear what the Netflix generation is bringing to the table so that we can more adequately survive. Now, today, we'll take a look at a musical piece that is by a group called Clipse, Birds Don't Sing. If you haven't heard it, listen to it. And if you don't get it right, hearing it the first time, you'll hear me say this a little bit later. You just don't know how to listen. Here we go. Hope you enjoy.
Whether we die unto the Lord. Whether we live, therefore, or die, we are the Lord.
Lost in emotion, mama's youngest. Trying to navigate life without my compass. Some experience death and feel numbness. But not me, I felt it all and couldn't function. Seeing you that day, telling you my plans, but I was leaving you that day. It was in God's hands. Yeah, it was at Elon's waiting to get with me. On my way to Texas, that's when Virginia hit me. And I realized in that instant, our last conversation, you was against it. Told you I was going to church for Thanksgiving. I heard what I wanted to hear, but didn't listen. You said you told Jean that Buck needed forgiveness. I see you went to Didi's and stuffed both her fridges. You even told Dad you wished y'all never split it. See, you were checking boxes, I was checking my mentions. Saying you was tired but not ready to go. Basically was dying without letting me know. I loved you, Med-Naj. Hate that he won't remember you.
Okay,
Two
pause.
things that break my heart is what November.
I am under the impression that about 5 stories got told in just that. There were, it was as though I've got a story. Well, again, I was trying to count as I was doing it, and yet I felt like I was going through a middle of a story, and then it went to something else and something else.
Yeah.
Is that what? Am I accurate in that?
In a sense, it's a continuation. So what he's setting up is he's talking to, at this time it's not specifically revealed who he's talking to and about.
And I'm thinking it's his mother.
Right. For the imagery, it is.
Yes.
But just lyrically, we don't know that quite yet. But yes, it's his mother for sure. And so now he's talking about effectively the last days of her life. So he's saying in there, you know, this leading up to this is what I was doing. These were the conversations we were having. Sounds like it went to his sister's house, her daughter's house, and stuffed her refrigerators full of food. Conversation. I'm having him being, that's Pusha T, one of the half of the clips. He's saying, you know, I'm telling you what I'm gonna do, and you telling me that ain't a good idea, and I'm only hearing what I want to hear versus what you're saying to me. She was setting up like she knew she was on the way out. He was saying he was gonna be leaving from, you know, he's on his way to Texas. They're from Virginia, so it's a play on the words. I don't know if Virginia is a person or he's just talking about his hometown. But he's like, I'm on my way to Texas. That's when Virginia hit me. So that's his wife. Oh wow. Okay, so they from Virginia, and that's his wife's name. So that's a double entendre. So that's the poetic device. So he's saying he's on his way to Texas. That's when Virginia. He's talking about his wife, and also he's from Virginia. So, and they talk heavily about being from Virginia. So it's not just a side thing, right? So anyway, but that's what he's saying about, okay, now this is the setup on when you were, you know, this, he's setting all of that up. Okay. So there are other stories, you know, other mentions, but it's like him painting a picture of the last couple of days or months of his mom's life.
So I'm gonna say this, and I mentioned this to you earlier, that I think generationally there are language, I don't know, barriers or what have you, hills and mountains that you have to climb. So there's things that are said that you'll say them, and they're English.
Yeah.
But they're not translatable to another generation. And I think related to what I want to get to with this podcast or with this communication level is, as I often say, that I recognize that I'm in a Moses generation. That while I might have gone through the wilderness, I recognize that at a certain point in my life, I'm on the hill looking out at the promised land, but may not get there. So it's necessary on this mountain that we communicate, because Moses was very careful to train Joshua. Because he says, well, I won't make it, but somebody has to make it to tell the same story when we get to the promised land. So there's the continuation of the story, even though I'm not in the picture. At the same time, I recognize that at the peak of this mountain, I have to understand your language, because while we now both coexist in this day and time, we have to be able to say to each other in a way that we understand each other, because we're not in the wilderness, but we're not in the promised land. We live right here, right now, and we've got to deal with this. So wanting to do something like this so that we get a chance to explore what those differences are in our communication style, language. But what's necessary is that we communicate it in such a way that everybody in the here and now say, okay, they're together. They're together. Okay. But
yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting because, you know, you look at it looking at me or my generation to Joshua, we probably Aaron. we probably, but in the same breath, like the language of hip hop, when we talking about like the pure art form, the art form part of it it's not even an interpreted heavy poetic. It is poetry. It's the most complex poetry. And it is DJ Premier, who's like one of the greatest producers in hip hop history. He was talking about, early on when he was creating some of the most, iconic tracks, beats, music for hip hop. His mind was like, this just sounds like a bunch of racket. And he's like, that's just because you don't know how to listen to it. He's like
that term.
And and so I don't even know if it matters as much. And this is when I was telling you, like, okay, well, these guys are considered old now. Clipse, I'm old, and it's a generation behind me, which I sort of can still Kendrick and J. Cole and Chance, and I can understand them, but they're younger than me. And then it's a generation behind them where I don't know what they talking about. I don't know, and I don't even know if it matters. The wordplay, the use of the poetic devices, all that mattered for this generation. Right. So I knew how to listen. Like that's why I said, I didn't know if that was a person, because the way he said it, my ears trained. Like, I think he just threw a double entendre, but I didn't know that. Right. But then I was like, that's his wife's name. I'm like, oh wow. I was like, see, but that's like it's an underground railroad.
Right,
you won't know if you ain't looking. You know, you can't catch it if you don't hear that. So it's gonna be stuff like that. But what we should be able to capture is by the end of his verse, you get a full. There's a lot of different stories in it, but you get the full main context of what he's talking about.
Okay,
which is mine.
Good. All right, good. Thanks much. Keep going.
Lost in emotion, mama's youngest. Trying to navigate life without my compass. Some experience death and feel numbness. But not me, I felt it all and couldn't function. Seeing you. Birds don't sing, birds don't sing, they screech and play.
Okay, pause.
The birds don't sing.
Okay. The birds don't sing. Well, why the title? What is the title?
So again, the literary component of hip hop is often discounted, but these are masterful poets. They're the best poets, and this is coming from a poet. But I can't create prose that is always in the pocket like a jazz musician and on beat like they can, and they tell full stories. I might be able to tell a full story, but I can't. But anyway, they're all very much trained in literature. So the birds don't sing, they screech in pain. So their classic American literature work, Maya Angelou, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. So they're offering up, no, the bird don't sing at all. It's an even deeper piece. It's not just because that bird is caged that is not singing. No, the birds don't sing. They screech. Period. They screech in pain. That's not, you're not hearing a beautiful sound. You're hearing them crying. So now the parallelism, you take it, and this is, of course, an interpretation, but I think it's pretty accurate, because this is why this song is getting so much acclaim right now, is they're saying that you guys have listened to us, you found pleasure in our music, but this has always been painful. We've been bearing our soul. So the birds don't sing, screech in pain.
You think it's music, you think it's melody, It's actually pain.
Yeah. This is a cathartic process we do each time we get on here.
Wow. Deep. Very deep. The point that you said earlier that I will just forever remember, someone saying, it sounds like noise. This is, you just don't know how to listen.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be true and taken kind of universally with the generations itself.
Mm-hmm.
People are saying what they're saying, and you think it's just noise.
Yep.
But if you don't know how to listen, you miss the clues of what's being said.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to practice learning how to listen so that we get the story. Good, great.
The birds don't sing, the birds don't sing, they screech in pain. Your car was in the driveway, I knew you were home. By the third knock, a chill ran through my bones. The way you miss mama, I guess I should've known. Chivalry ain't dead, you ain't let her go alone. Found you in the kitchen, scriptures in the den. Half-written text that you never got to send. Combing through your dresser drawer, where do I begin? Posted noted Bible quotes, were you preparing in? I can hear your voice now, I can feel your presence. Asking should I rap again? You gave me your blessing. The way you spelled it out, there's an L in every lesson.
You
Boy, you owe it to the world, let your mess become your message. Shared you with my...
Okay, I want to give you some context here.
Thanks.
So this is Malice is his stage name. This is the brother, the older brother of the guy who went first, Pusha T. So together they make up the group Clipse.
Got it.
Okay, so Malice actually broke up the group because Malice, I think they both grew up in church. This is my first time seeing the video. I didn't listen to the song, but I ain't seen this video. But I thought maybe their daddy was a preacher. Malice ended up being a preacher.
Mm-hmm.
So for a while, he's like, I'm not doing no more rap. I'm not, like you said, he used to rap about crack and drugs and all this stuff they were involved in. Even though now this is different than the pre-conversation we were having. These guys actually grew up with their daddy.
Mm-hmm.
So, but even still, the environment they around, all the other friends not, but they chose different paths or whatever. At least that's what they tell us on the records that they was making. But Malice said no. So, I don't know if it's 10, 15 years ago. He's like, no, I'm not rapping anymore. Now, Push T continued to have a career, great career, and, but Malice had stopped, all of that stuff for a while. So now he's talking about his father. Now, what's happening in this song is within a short period of time, even though it sounds like his parents had either they were separated or divorced. They could have just been separated and for a long time or whatever, but their mother passed and then the father passed like right after him. So that's when he's saying again that poetic device. He's saying, "Oh, chivalry ain't dead. You wouldn't let her go alone."
Oh.
So he's saying even in whatever y'all had going on, he was like, no,
Oh.
So, but he's saying, in there, he's like, oh, I had just asked you, should I start rapping again? So he's talking to his dad. He was just basically asking him about what he thought about that. So I thought the context is important because it showed there his dad was a deacon, grew up in the church. And Malice actually he started a church with his like earnings from his rap career, or he, just was a part of a church, but he was actually preaching in the church for a while. I don't know how long. I don't know if he still is or not. But they came back together. They always been brothers. But he stopped rapping. You know,
yeah, different career paths.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Rich.
Yeah.
Wow.
So even in that, if you can pause it. So even in that was what I was just I totally forgot about that part in the song, but what I was telling you, hip hop raises generation of young black males with no father figures. But he's in here, he's laying out, yeah, you was pops to everybody, all of my friends.
Yeah.
Because he was like the one that we all grew up, Generation X grew up, it was like one or two dads in the whole neighborhood. And then they had to be these surrogate dads for all these boys.
And that, when you said that earlier, I guess it was hidden in plain sight. Mm-hmm. You say the white noise or what have you. Without men in the neighborhood, then the music became the fathers. Mm-hmm. So whatever happened in the music, that became our masculine image.
That's right.
So that's who Dad is. Whatever, and you called them the purest rappers, mm-hmm. with the knowledge, and they were talking, mm-hmm. about positive things. Mm-hmm. They become the dad, mm-hmm. and we were communicating that in the same way as they say the slaves communicated to each other to encourage each other to, mm-hmm. gosh, we're going to pick more cotton tomorrow, but we're going to encourage you through the day. Yeah. I guess I never really saw it that way, that because of such a vast absence of dad, mm-hmm. that the music stepped in,
yeah,
to become.
So there's a song, Ed OG in the Bulldogs. What's this? You never heard of this. I guarantee you never heard of this group. But he had this song. It was a huge hit in the hood called "Be a Father to Your Child." So this came out in the early '90s. And Talitha, well, I was around, your daughter, my wife, will often ask me, like, okay, well, you had your uncles and you had your dad, but you was not up in your face. How did you see that, or when did you know this is something you wanted to do? It was like, well, I never really crystallized it where it's like, oh yes, there are a lot of I got homeboys where they're like, I'm gonna be a dad, I'm gonna be the best dad I can because I'm gonna give what I didn't have. I didn't have to that extent. I just said, okay, when I am a dad, then I'm gonna be a dad. But it was Ed OG and the Bulldogs. This song, "Be a Father to Your Child." I mean, it's a whole hip hop song, and it was a hit in the hood. Like, be a father to your child. Like, these lessons were there from the record.
Wow.
Shaq, Shaquille O'Neal. Because he had a rap career. He again the same age.
Right.
Early 50s now. Shaq had a song called "My Biological Didn't Bother." So he's giving all the props to his stepdad. And he said, I had Phil, and Phil was my father because my biological didn't bother. That was also a hit in the hood. This is Shaquille O'Neal.
Right.
This is when he was an NBA All-Pro. He made this song.
Right.
There's another song called it's called "When They Reminisce Over You." TROY is, I don't call him rap groupie, but he's like a dancer in this crew. Heavy D, remember Heavy D?
Right.
So in his crew, Mount Vernon, New York, had his guy. One of the dancers got killed. He was Heavy D and the Boys. He was one of the boys. He got killed. This other group called P Rock CL Smooth. This is like a seminal song in hip hop called "When They Reminisce Over You." But in there, he is outlining. It's not about they in memorial name the song TROY. They reminisce over you, but it's not really about that. But this concept is a sentimental song, and then half of the song he's talking about his stepdad, how he stepped up and did all these things for him and all this stuff. So when I say it was in the music, it wasn't just like it wasn't an adjacent thing or like a direct subliminal. It was like directly in the music.
Wow.
Like just as much as I didn't even when we were having this conversation earlier and we talking about, oh yeah, and I'm like, oh yeah, because I've been playing the album. But when he was like, damn, I had a dad, like he's laying it out there. Right, like this is what my dad, this is a core part of hip hop still.
Right. And he's saying dad taught me discipline, dad, and the things that his dad taught him. Because he had a dad.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that, and so in the midst of all of this, so in all those stories I just mentioned, or about those songs that I mentioned, I think the reason why this song is getting so much critical acclaim is if we double click on it. So you take the context of all of the emotions that hip hop did display. Vulnerability was not a strong suit. DMX and Tupac were probably the two greatest at displaying vulnerability. Mm. And they had this crazy cult-like following because of it. So you're going to see my pain and my faults, and it is what it is, and this is who I am. That was never, because it was still this shield of this machismo had to protect me from this stuff.
Right.
So even in those to be a father to your child or feels, these were not really songs about how much I missed out on. It was just, no, this is important. It was here mentally versus here. Matter of the heart. Okay, so what they are doing, the Clipse are doing, and we've seen it as these rappers get older, and they call it, like I mentioned, they call it this grown man rap. Mm. So Nas has done a brilliant job of doing that as he's been older. Jay-Z did it with this album 444. It's supposed to be an apology album initially about him cheating on Beyonce, but he really was then putting out this vulnerability you never seen from the coolest, whether it is debatable in hip hop if he's the greatest of all time, right? But most people will say that, but he was, and part of that moniker or persona is this cool factor. And if you cool, then you're not being vulnerable.
Right.
But now he's airing it all out on the record, being vulnerable. But these are few and far between. So now the Clipse come, like this is now a grown man rap conversation, because again, 10 years ago, there were no grown man rappers. Mm-hmm. Meaning there were these concepts
because they hadn't gotten old enough.
Right. So now there weren't no old rappers, no 50-year-old rappers. 15 years ago,
right,
you could have been a rapper before, and you're 50, right, but you were not a 50-year-old rapper.
Right.
Malice is a 50-year-old rapper.
Right.
So this is a whole new concept.
With a father, he's a father himself,
and
lost his father.
Right. Now we talking about something that now we getting to something.
Right.
Now we talking. Now I want to tune in again. Now this rap thing is relevant again, because rap was a sport for youth.
Right.
Just like basketball. Like, okay, we ain't never seen no 40-year-old person average 25 points a game like LeBron James.
And he's an icon. He's the only
right.
Well,
but they get older.
See that again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's how rap went. It was like, well, you aged out of rap. But now you got these men are like, no, I have something to say.
Right.
And it's a lot different than
what I was saying then. Now I am the dad that I was talking about then.
And is relevant.
Right.
Is now very relevant.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, this
rich. Okay, good. This is good.
your message. Shared you with my friends, the pops they never had. You lived for our fishing trips, damn I had a dad. Mine taught discipline, mine taught structure. Mine didn't mind when he had to pull a double. Mine worked overtime, smiled through the struggle. Cause mine wouldn't let us feel what he had to suffer. See, mine made sure he had every base covered. So imagine his pain finding bass in the cupboard. Birds don't sing if the words don't sting. Your last few words in my ears still ring. You told me that you love me, it was all in your tone. I love my 2 sons was the code to your phone. Now you home.
Yeah, he got it. There you go, Nash. Yeah, Nash.
You show them love. You show them love. You'll see.
So, this song is so the Clipse, they're a group. So Pharrell.
Yes.
So they're a group that Pharrell founded, launched. They grew up together. They all grew up from the same area. So, but the song was so powerful. Like, and the story and the imagery was telling. I can only think of one, maybe 2 people who make songs that way with that level of imagery and storytelling. But the voice that you heard at the end of this, who was just talking there, that's Stevie Wonder.
And when I first heard it, I recognized the voice. Didn't recognize it then. Okay.
Yeah. So he thought so much of the song. Like, I don't know if he got a producer credit on it or not, but he hopped on. At least he wanted to, So we talk about that generational piece of it.
Right.
Like, that's why this was probably going to win the Grammy Song of the Year, or definitely has put them back in the spotlight again, because the power of words is still a real thing, and the power of hip hop is really the power of the words. And we haven't been, like I mentioned, vulnerability we haven't really been privy to, or I would say it hasn't been readily available like that.
Right.
But when it's done right, like this song, then everyone's paying attention. Like, that's what even Stevie thought of it. To hop on. So
there's, and I think so. I'm listening to Kevin Hart the other night, and he says, once you get, I think he says over 40, well, this isn't the way he said it. He says it a little bit more profane. You don't care what people think anymore. Look, I'm out here. This is who I am. I don't care what you think. So the idea of being vulnerable is not as much of a big deal, because I don't have to prove my manhood to you anymore.
Right.
I mean, at a certain age, within a certain age generation, you might say, I have to make sure you know that I'm a man, that I'm not a punk, and all of those other things. After a certain age, I don't care what you think. I'm a father. I am who I am, and that doesn't matter. So that's it. There's another line though that I thought was very powerful. He says his dad said to him, and I may mess it up, but here's the meaning: your mess becomes your message. You went in, you did this, and you messed it up. I mean, this whole idea that you said, look, daddy did his duty. He provided discipline, etc. And yet he finds drugs in the house. I mean, what did that do to him? So that now he's not as much focused on his own thoughts and feelings. Now I'm mature enough to see how that affected my father.
Right.
And wow, that you know, he was handling his block and I'm handling my block, and they're different blocks. Mm-hmm. And now I'm sensitive to how that felt for him. And a lot of that comes from the fact that all of a sudden I'm a father myself. Mm-hmm. And I know what that would feel like if I have invested all of this in your betterment, and then you come and slap me in the face with the very thing that I'm trying to keep you away from, which is powerful in and of itself. I mean, your original point, though, of, I guess maybe I knew it and didn't realize it, that the music was the father in the community. Mm-hmm. The music itself. The words, because what the words do, the Bible gives us, faith cometh by hearing. Mm-hmm. And if you can hear it, you hear this over and over and over again, so that you know the words. Mm-hmm. I mean, you are able to just go down the words just like that, and you know the words, and so they become a part of you. They start to shape and mold your character, and that's the man you become. Mm-hmm. So depending upon what you're listening, especially if you put a beat to it, now.
Yeah. But, you know, and we in the season of, you know, Kwanzaa, this is the last thing. Earlier we talking about the Kuumba and everything, just doing out of necessity, right? Just and hip hop really became that, in the sense of, I mean, imagine if we had, when you talk about that, like he talking about he had a dad, and so he got to hear those messages from or if we had these now older men having language and could speak the same language, where, you know, the ear of younger men that way. But with hip hop, you know, the music did become the fathers, but we basically had 25-year-olds teaching 15-year-olds, you know.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, because like you mentioned, he can reflect on that now, because now he's lived a little. He's lived a while longer, and he's become this man where he's, and I can be more vulnerable, because I'm going to bed, I'm going to sleep with my wife every night. I ain't thinking about, you know, all of this stuff, but you know, Quincy Jones said it best talking about Tupac. He said, you know, if I had died at 25, I would have just been a struggling trumpet player. He said Martin Luther King would have died at 25. He would have been an unknown, you know, newly minted preacher. Right. He said, you know, he went down this list of all these people. If they had died at 25, it would have been nobody's. He said, but Tupac died at 25. He was Tupac.
Yeah. And you don't even have to call his last name. Yeah, you may not even know his last name, but you know who he is.
Yeah, and you know, but then to think of, you know, like that maturation we're talking about, like with Jay-Z or Nas, what would that have looked like on a Tupac, and then how would they have influenced? You know, how are we influenced by these now more senior voices who can still make a record to be relevant and all of this stuff? It's a new era, new age for that, for sure. But it's also something of, going back to that, and music, something out of nothing, created this environment where, because before, I always say this about my older brother too, that he had to be tough before he was strong. Mm. Him being tough before he was strong allowed me to be strong before I had to be tough. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And hip hop, in a lot of the ways, it made that, those are the early messages. You got to toughen up now before you were ready to be strong. So a lot of music reflected that. But obviously, this is a man who has been through something that cooked both of them. Now they can be strong. Mm-hmm. And because now they can be strong, then it display that this, no one is going to hear this song and think, oh, that's soft.
Yeah, right.
Even though they bearing their souls.
Right.
You know, they are allowed to, you know, they now can be strong, you know, but early hip hop, it was just, no, you be tough now.
Yeah, to be tough, yeah.
That's what you got, hardcore, real gangster, all this stuff. Before you were strong, you had to be tough.
Yeah, I like that line too. You had to be tough before you could be strong.
Yeah.
because that's often where young men see themselves, that they have to be tough before they're actually strong.
And I think that's when you talk about manhood and this void of manhood now. When you talk about fathers or just older men, they provide that covering. You provide that covering of you can be first. You're gonna be strong.
Right.
We focus on being strong first.
Because I got the tough part.
Right.
I got the tough part.
Right.
You don't have to be that. You don't have to prove your toughness because I'm that covering. Right. Wow. Good. Listen, for those that tuned in, Javonte Onyebuele here with me, a prolific poet, rapper, all of those great things you've heard in what he said for us this afternoon. And thank you very much, Javonte, for being with us, for your share. Gosh, I have learned a lot myself, but I really want to stand on this mountain to say that there are things that each generation can gain and glean from the other. The void in my mind are just overlooking the idea, as he brought to us today, that the music presented the image of the father for many of the young boys growing up. And so in the absence of the music, gosh, wow, how much worse would it have been? Because there was no barometer. There was no one. The music allowed them to be tough even before they were strong. I like that line too, by the way. But thank you so much, Javonte, for being with us. Please do subscribe to this podcast. I enjoy doing it, and I love the idea of bringing forth different generations so that we can learn how to listen. Thank you. God bless. We'll see you next week.